all right. What up? What up? What up, everybody? And welcome back to another Stone DM. That's me. No guest this time. Had a lot going on. Wasn't sure if I'd be able to get this one in. We had to miss last week, so I didn't want to try and schedule anything because there's a lot of the unknown right now. But what I do know is we had a really fun session with the All Bear crew. Check them out on YouTube. Super fun. Had a really fun session with the All Bear crew. We are in the dark forest of Magellanis. They had to go through some trials to get there, and those were a little crazy, a little hectic. I didn't expect them to be what they were, but I had things in place for what would happen with the trials because we don't do a lot of skill checks, and so I wanted to try and incorporate some of that. And then it seems like here lately, maybe I've incorporated it too much. But I just wanted to do a couple of fun, different little games with traveling through this place. And then just see how the players would handle a couple of different like puzzles or circumstances or anything like that. They did try to get creative, Lothian most of all, so that was super fun to watch and just react to and see their ideas come up and how they would play their character and what their character might think to do in some of these precarious situations. You know what I mean? So that was a lot of craziness, and then there's different roles and stuff. I had like a slide, and if you pass the check, you're good. And if you fail two in a row, if you fail when you're at disadvantage, because you're all over the place. You know what I mean? And then if you pass, you get a little bit better. If you get two passes in a row, now you got an advantage because you're good at the task, and one of it, just a slide, blue, 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 no big deal. But yeah, I just, kind of just did some silly shit. There was a hill they had to climb where they had to get 10 successes without getting, repeated failures, because repeated fails would send you, you would lose a success, so you had to reach 10 successes. So that ended up turning into a nice fun little thing with the princess, because she kept just going up and back, up and back, up and back. So but at a certain point, you do have to stop that, because even the idea of just rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling is not the game that you showed up to play either. The circumstance either has to pass or fail at a certain point. But I think the skill checks are going to be a little bit more utilized going forward than what I had done before. However, I don't think I'm going to try and use them as much as what has been in the last couple of games. The last skill check in the last game was over a river, and they just had to jump across. It was like 5 passes, 3 fails, and like everybody failed. They all had to go careening down some rapids, blam, 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 blam. It was you fall in, you have to roll a D100, and that's how far you fly down, and then you get to try and catch onto another rock and save yourself and pull yourself up. But it turned into quite the fiasco. People were just going and going, like the rapids could have ended, or there could have been a waterfall. Who knows what would have happened? But I mean, it was really funny, and it was a lot of fun. But at a certain point, it was like, okay, these rapids are just gonna kill us, and we can't pass a simple skill check. And like, I think one of the people only had to roll an 8 on the 20 to get enough points to pass, and like they were still struggling. Like it was just a hot mess. It was a lot of fun though. And then we entered the Druid Grove, Salterra. I don't even think they learned the name of this fucking place before Bubo was like, all right, I'm gonna hop into this test trial thing. And I was like, oh, you know, it'll take a couple of weeks because you got to do like one a week. And she was like, well, can I just do more? And they were like, well, I mean, probably, but like that's dangerous. And she was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do that. And then it came down to 1 and 1, so she had to roll a pass on the highest level because it kept going up. It was supposed to be like, oh, you know, you take your time and like theoretically like kind of train and like do druid stuff while you're in the grove and like live, and then now you're like more prepared, even though like you didn't actually get like any bonuses to the check or anything. Like perhaps I did have some games in place to where she could have gotten a little bit of help because the skill checks were going to continue going up. But she speed ran it. She was like, yeah, we're just going to do this whole thing right now. And she managed to survive. And I did tell her, though, like at the end, if you would have failed that, we would have lost to Bubo, you know? And I still haven't really considered like what resurrection looks like in our world. However, I'm kind of open to it a lot more right now because the idea of needing a diamond is really cool, and we don't have like the knowledge of diamonds for these guys right now. So like if someone did fall and they were like, oh, how do we bring them back? And someone's like, oh, you know, you need this amount of magic and you need a diamond. They'd be like, oh, you know, now where do we get a diamond? And that's, you know, a whole new side quest. So like, I guess we'll see what happens if, you know, that arises. But I haven't really considered it an awful lot yet, even though I probably should have, because like I tried to make the world dangerous, even though like they crush the monsters and the people and like whatever sort of actual like adversity I put in their way, no big deal. The world elements are destroying my group. Vine crosses, river crosses, quicksand, you know, just general travel through life. That's kicking these guys' ass. But a monster or adversity between people, no big deal. They run right through it, hammer it home. But that's a lot of fun too. But with Bubo speedrunning, now that changes the game a little bit, because we were going to do like a split party session. And while that's still an opportunity, it's a lot less likely now. Because like everyone knows something happened at the Grove, so like they're probably going to go back. They're getting like bombarded by the animals telling them to like, oh, check this shit out. But they can still go on, you know, no big deal. So we can still do the split party thing, and that will also change things, because like, where do they leave the Grove anyway? Do they not? Do they do their own thing? Do they try and catch up? But I would prefer them all stay together and experience, you know, things as a group and play off of each other like that. But there is going to have to be a time where some of these guys are going to be away from each other for a while and like doing their own type of thing. However, the world's not really designed for a party to be going out there with like 3 people. Like anything more than, or anything like less than 4 is like cutting it, you know? And even 4, you better be a high level, because like there's some shit out there. However, you know, as a DM, obviously I'm trying to like build the combat and encounters and stuff like closer to their level. There are some monsters that they're gonna run into, and sometimes we do like random rolls and stuff like that, and those monsters are way out of their league. and it's just it like, but they have to come across those sometimes, and if they ever feel like challenging them, they're gonna have to, suffer the consequences and perhaps run and flee, and like someone's gonna have to stay behind and take on whatever it is, or like buy time for the group at the very least. So there's a lot of different things that could play out in that, and I'm really excited to like kind of get some of this stuff going. But we are essentially kind of like finished with this part of the Dark Forest at the moment, and like, will there be more? Probably, but there's other stuff happening in the world too, so will they get drawn away from it? Bubo has learned that her story doesn't start here, but it is a lot of because of here that she has a story. So like the life tree and all that is really important to how she sustained life, and then but her egg has a different origin, and like, are they going to explore that? Is that something they want to do? Then that brings us to the land of giants, and like, what does that entail for the group or party? Does everybody want to go there and do that? Is Aurelia going to be allowed to continue adventuring if she goes home? And if she doesn't go home, what's going to happen? Is there a giant breakaway scene, or does she persuade the queen that this is something that needs to happen? She needs to be out in the world and experiencing these things. Or does the queen have an argument that makes Aurelia want to stay? And then maybe, Roxy has to play another character or something for a little while. Does the party make it if they meet the queen and don't hold up to the standards? What happens when they make it back to Elio, and what it's all going to go on, with that? How do they travel back? Are they going to rush there? There's a lot of still things that are up in the air, and it's all super exciting. I am trying to get that out. I'm really excited to be able to write a lot more of the world and just get some more lore and stuff out there for depending on how they travel and which directions they go. We spent a lot of time going through the swamps and stuff like that. Do they go to a new area? Do they, fly on the griffin cart? And like, this could be one of the only opportunities they ever get to do that. Like, and that will cut travel significantly. Obviously, they're not going to be able to get the chariot for long-term use like that. I'm not just going to be able to allow them to just fly across the land and hop from story to story to story to story like immediately. Even though that could be cool, and maybe they do persuade their way into it or steal it, or something cool or creative or like insane. Because like, then what happens when you steal the royal cart? Like, oh no. And then it's like, I'm wondering, have I gotten too personal with all these people, and do they need some storylines that don't revolve around them, and some things that are happening that, are almost out of their control, but they're thrust in the situation anyway, and now they have to, handle that. But then I've also been thinking a lot of other things, like different encounters that would be a lot of fun, different storylines that would be a lot of fun, and some of the characters that we've already come across, how do we bring them back into the fold? Like, we got two enemies who seemingly escaped justice. We have, the is he real or isn't he real Boar King. We have, what is the Boar King even? And then there's more of the personal storylines. Is there any more for Lothian to learn? Is there, which direction is Lothian gonna go? Is he gonna You know, what does Aurelia want from Lothian or from this whole experience? What has she learned so far? How is this going to affect what she does as a leader? The direction of the elves as a whole. Are they going to go back for these heartstones? Are they going to search for more? Is that going to be like the second chapter? Is like the hunt for the heartstones? Because like that could be a lot of fun too. And there have to be more because there have been, other races. Do the dwarves have one, like stashed away somewhere? Where did the Goliaths, come from? Because seemingly, with the Goliaths, they look like trees, they look like stones, they look like ice, they look like coral. I was thinking about this, and I should have just used the Genasis for the Goliaths, because they could, be all these different elements, but like the Goliaths are it now, and they're all these different looks, even though they have, similar features, they have all these different identities, and even the stone ones, different red rock, sandstone, volcanic, like, stuff like that. So like, what kind of, like, where could these heartstones be? So there's just so many different uh, things that can be, what would be. Um, are we ever gonna, find out anything about Charlie? Are we ever gonna go to where Agatha's from? Um, Agnes, Agatha, Aggie, Ags. Um, are we ever gonna go to where they're from and meet any of those people? What would happen if she does make it back there? And like, what are they expecting? How are they handling their leader being gone? And then, like, what is Bubo? Nobody knows. Bubo's just a thing. Bubo's a Bubo, and Bubo's alone. Uh, is that forever? Uh, how are the halflings doing? What do they look like? How are they evolving? Um, they learned some things pretty quickly. The ladder and stuff like that. So, what other advancements have they made? What kind of society do they have? Um, there's just so many different questions and things, and now we're going potentially to the land of the elves, and what does that look like, and what kind of encounters are we going to get there? How do we get there? That's going to be the fun part for me. Is like, do they manage to get the cart? Do they want to take the cart? Do they want to, travel the land and see more things before they get there, just in case? Like, are they even thinking about any of that stuff, or are they just going to decide when they get, you know, in the game again? Who cares? It's all fun, and I'm so excited to see what they're going to do. And then, we get to see the land of the elves, but then we also got the summer festival coming up, and I kind of set myself up for that. Do we play long enough for them to make it there? Do we have a session where it's going to be, a couple of weeks? So like, what did you do this week? What did you do this week? Instead of daily. Like, how much time do they have to spend when they make it to the Elven Village? Are they going to be there for the whole month? Because her deadline is a month ahead of the summer festival. Or are they going to leave again and make it back? Are they even going to care to make it back? And then, if they don't, what do other places do for their summer festivals? It's a lot of fun. It's really interesting, and it's things that I get to create, and I also get to work off of them. And I just hope that I do it justice. Like, they were wondering if Elio is as much of a dick as he's supposed to be, because I wasn't portraying him the way that they had initially thought he would be portrayed. Because, Elio's supposed to be high and mighty, bully, especially to Lothian, who is, a different. And what would Elio know of why he doesn't like Lothian? Like, the people? Or is Elio just a racist? Because he's definitely a classist, but like it's kind of expected among the royals, and I'm not good at playing that. But I do have some ideas, and I hope that they bear with me, and I hope that it comes to fruition the way that I am, envisioning it. But I will, talk with them a little bit more as the progression between the characters come up. But then there's also like the elves, the way I see it, are kind of spoiled. Like even the whole race, and Elio doesn't have a big appreciation for that, and like that's mostly why he kind of bullies the people like around him, especially elves there. Because he's been into the world and he's seen and done things, and like the way I see it is like the elves spend a lot of time at home. They're trained, but like they don't have the worldly experience as much as maybe they should, and maybe that's like part of Elio's gripe. I haven't really ran any of this by Roxy. This is just stuff that has like recently come up. But Elio is definitely gonna be, still be what they imagine him to be. Just a little twist. And it's not like he's going to be like, oh, hey, we're best friends now. But like him seeing these guys in the world, dirty, beat up, their eyes are telling a different story than what they told, because they've been on the road for 60 days. They've almost died. They've saved a town. They've gained trust from people through action. They're not the same people that left the Elven village, and like, so he's going to have potentially a little bit more of a damn kind of look at them, but he's still Elio. He's still the best. And if we're being honest, he does see Lothian as like a defect. Because that's what Pale Elves are, And in the history, in my version, they, at one point tried to steal power, and that's why they were banned, and that's where the bad rap came from. Now, granted, this is, years later, and the bad rap is kind of just like, they have a bad rap, they have, because they have a bad rap, and it's, not a good look, and that's what Aurelia is kind of learning. But then there's also the Heartstones, and what is that going to do to the people, and like how will that evolve? The storyline. But then I do have ideas for Charlie and for Aggie to have, their big story. Like the whole thing, I think, is Aurelia's story. And right now we're learning like Bubo's part. Like this part of the story is centered on like Bubo right now. And there's like still more straight Bubo stuff. But I still feel like the overall story is kind of Aurelia's story. And I don't know if anyone else sees it that way. I don't know if I'm kind of forcing that onto Aurelia, and if that's even like fair to Roxy. or like even if that is making me like tell the story in a different way and take away from some other people, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of making sure everyone has their moments. Like the last session, I kind of neglected Charlie a little bit because there was so much going on with Bubo, and Charlie is the only one who stayed at the Grove, who was a player character outside of Bubo. Uh, so like he was going to be on his own a lot, and when I took the other three out of the Grove, they ran into that river, and that just that didn't work. And it wasn't. It was literally just the story of the dice. So right now, like Bubo is coming out of her tree. The tree has completely accepted her. She has speed ran the trials. She earned a bunch of gifts. I don't know if it was a little too hefty, but like I feel like it was worth it. And like that was the whole like thing is like go to the Druid Grove and learn to be a druid, and like she did it. And I don't know if that's maybe my fault for not like making the trials a little bit harder. However, I did imagine that like there would be like a little bit more role play to the idea of it taking so long. Though I was ready for her to attempt to speedrun it. I don't know that I expressed the implication of if you try to do it outside of the weekly thing. Like if you do it by week, you can try it however many times it takes you to pass. But her trying to speedrun it is the tree also wants you to do that, because if you fail, the tree absorbs your life source again. And it's not like the tree's evil. It's the life tree. It takes and provides, you know? Like there's a cycle to this whole process of life. And the tree's okay with that. So I don't know if I expressed the idea that the danger as well as maybe I should have, but she did it. She accomplished it. But now we have the others who are like 200 feet downstream in the forest, like half a day away. Well, what would have been a half a day to the river, they are now way downstream. So yeah, they're out in the woods. We'll see what happens with them and how they manage to either make it out of the woods or back to the druid camp. And then we will also be able to see how Charlie handles the new Bubo, how Bubo handles the new Bubo. Are they going to stay in the Grove for maybe a little bit? Are they just going to, head on out? Because, like, they do have a deadline and there's new information. So there's new journeys to be had. They have to go to the Land of Giants, and some of them would know that, like, you're not allowed to go to the Land of Giants. So maybe they have to go back to the elves to see if, like, the queen will give them permission. Or, like, get them permission. Because, like, how does that work? Who knows? I have some ideas, but they could also just bum rush the Land of Giants and see what happens. That could be fun. But it's all really exciting. I hope you guys come and check us out. All Bear Crew over on YouTube, here on YouTube, because this is, only on YouTube. But anyway, puff, puff, pass it along, y'all. And don't forget to smile.